Hey gang, I figured I would put myself together a little better. So, just to compare, let's check on how Pastelli's doing. Okay, never mind. Well, uh, this video is about two human rights documents, one being our Bill of Rights in America, and the other being the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, if you have any familiarity with those, do be keeping them in mind as you watch this video. And I hope it gives you a lot to think about. So, let's go back to that train wreck, I guess.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is talk about rights. Human rights. Where do they come from? Actually, we did that last time, kind of. But I want to talk about two documents that enshrine some rights and what they mean. So first, let's kind of start close to home. Let's talk about our Constitution and its Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights, of course, being the first 10 amendments. And we got a whole bunch in there. There's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly. That's all just the first one. No search and seizure, quartering soldiers, right to a jury, the right to due process, all good stuff. Excuse me, I'm going to try not to cough into the microphone. But why are those in there? Why these rights specifically? I mean, what are they there for? And why are they all negative rights? They're all rights protecting you from something. They're rights to have something not happen to you, like you can't get thrown in jail for no reason. So, like the government can't just take your stuff sometimes. Like they can't restrict your speech or your right to assemble sometimes. If they're violated, what do? How do you actually make sure that your rights stay protected? I mean, the Bill of Rights is just words on paper. Or are they on like vellum or something? Linen, maybe? I don't know. I'm not much of a history buff. But I guess you could be like this guy. There was a whole movie about him, Gideon. He learned the law himself while he was in jail, and then got his own case taken to the Supreme Court and got us a new right, or got one of the amendments interpreted in a way that means we have a new right, namely the right to an attorney. But it's kind of a boring movie. You can watch it if you want. But that's pretty tough anyway. So what mechanisms are in place to make sure that these rights are enforced, that they're not violated, that they mean anything more than just words? What do you do if the government stops paying attention to them or interprets them in such a way as to subvert the intended meaning and it's not actually doing anything anymore? Other than guillotines and Molotov cocktails, of course. We can save that one for later. So, puzzle over that. I want you to figure that out. How are the rights in the Constitution actually enforced? What mechanisms do we have to ensure that they're protected? But also that question earlier about why is it all just protections? Why is it only these negative rights? So, I also want to talk about a completely different document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This was proclaimed in the UN in 1948, I think, right after World War II. Who knows what would have happened then to make us want to enshrine some universal human rights. But to be a list of rights that all humans everywhere should enjoy. It's got a lot of the same ones. They're worded differently, so like remedy by competent tribunals. That's pretty close to due process. Public hearings. I need to find some way to make it less obvious when I'm reading the things that I want to say. Like, it's so obvious. Anyway, I'm just going to do it with no shame. Public hearings, no arbitrary interference with one's privacy. That's kind of like no unreasonable searches and seizures, but it's worded differently. Um, why? Why is it worded one way in our Bill of Rights, and why did they choose to word it differently when they made this one at the UN, the United Nations, for all people? And what might be different between no arbitrary interference with one's privacy and no unreasonable searches and seizures? I would suggest you think about your Facebook accounts. But beyond that, there's a whole lot of new ones. There's a whole lot of ones that we don't even that aren't there in any of our amendments. There's things like the right to marry, the right to own property, the right to Social Security, the right to rest and leisure, the right to an adequate standard of living, right to education and health care, and the right to participate in the cultural life of the community. That sounds nice. A lot of these are positive rights. So it's not just a protection from something. It's like you get a right to get this thing. So not a right for something not to happen to you, but a right that guarantees that you will get these things, like good housing or healthcare. So why might that be a hard sell in the good old US of A? Why don't we have those rights enshrined? I mean, they sound pretty good. Like, I would love to have a right to an adequate standard of living. So, why are they there in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Why are they not there in our Constitution? What might be some problems around even trying to enforce those rights to guarantee them? What counter arguments could you think for somebody arguing for their inclusion? Like, why would it be a bad idea? But then also think of some counter arguments to those counter arguments. Why might they be great? Why might those potential problems not actually even be problems? I also want you to look into enforcement of the UDHR, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, not only how we enforce our own Bill of Rights and our own Constitution, but what kind of enforcement mechanisms would there be for this international document? What binding force does it even have? Is there any? I mean, how is it enforced? What redress does it allow when your country is violating your rights under the UDHR? To whom do you turn, and what procedures do you follow? How is that different from the protection of rights in the United States? So, I absolutely recommend that you do a little more research on this topic. Like usual, this is just an introduction with lots of questions, but a quick Google will bring up both documents very nicely, and the UN has a great website all about the UDHR and what it means and how it's enforced. So, the main thing I want from y'all is the compare-contrast between them. And I'm going to post an assignment on this.
An assignment sounds like a great idea. And honestly, that was a pretty good video. I'm glad I watched it again. I'm really cute and funny. But yeah, I'll post that assignment and hit me up if you have any questions. Shoot me an email. Let me know if you want to do a Zoom. And I gotta say, it's been a real interesting 4 years when it comes to human rights in the United States. So lots to talk about. Anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.